Today we are looking at lesson 16 in our iReady book. This starts on page 153. We are analyzing analogies and allusions, which is RL 8.4, analyzing the impact of specific word choices on meaning and tone, including analogies and allusions to other texts. So here we're looking for tone, which we know is also attitude towards the subject. Does the description have? Are they amused, angry, or full of admiration for the potter's abilities? Julian leans over his potter's wheel, the clay spinning before him like a tiny dancer. He cups it gently with his hands, and the dancer stretches toward the ceiling, becoming a slender column. Now he places delicate fingers on the rim, and the top widens gracefully as it continues its elegant ballet. So, of course, we're looking at tone and word choices, so we need to put our positives and negatives in there. So, gently is going to be positive, delicate fingers is positive, elegant is positive, and gracefully is positive. So overall, we know that this has a positive tone. The writer purposefully chose words to help you visualize the change in clay and recognize the beauty of sculpting. This extended comparison between two unlike things is called an analogy. Writers use both analogies and allusions, references to well-known stories, artworks, people, and so on to enrich the meaning and shape the tone of their writing. Study the cartoon below. How do the allusions affect its tone and meaning? So over here we have the artist who says, "This will be my masterpiece, my Mona Lisa." I look more like the Bride of Frankenstein, is what the subject of the painting is thinking. So over here, Mona Lisa, we know that that's positive. And over here, Bride of Frankenstein, I wouldn't want to be married to a monster, so that's going to be negative. So here, the allusion, Mona Lisa, we're referencing the famous painting, and that's showing us that the artist thinks she's created a great portrait of a beautiful woman. But meanwhile, the model is thinking that she's referencing Bride of Frankenstein, the fictional wife of Frankenstein's monster, which is showing that the model thinks the portrait is horrible. So these two people have a very different point of view. And then the goal of this different point of view is that it's supposed to be funny. And again, you don't have to agree that it's funny, but that's what the author was intending. Going to page 154, we are looking at an artist at work. So over here, realistic fiction, you're going to think about me, you're going to think about Ms. Otomo, and Ruiz, and De Jesus, and Mr. Moore, and Mr. LeBlanc, and Ms. Purcell, and Ms. Guerrero, and Ms. Bazan. And there are 13 English teachers in our school, so I know I'm going to miss someone. An Artist at Work by Marla Kim. You should also, of course, be thinking about Ms. Art Clark for this. Question: how does the use of analogy and allusion impact the meaning and tone of the story? King hesitates for a minute, box that name, as if preparing himself, and then slowly places the tip of his paintbrush on a piece of handmade paper clipped to an easel. Handmade, ooh, you fancy. Starting in the upper left corner, the brush swoops like a swallow, flitting down first and to the right, and then turning swiftly to glide left along the bottom of the paper. So we have our like a swallow. Swallow is a kind of bird. And here he's showing us kind of doing like this kind of like loopy motion. Streaks of green grass paint remain wherever the brush has touched paper. King lifts the brush and his assistant, or someone else in this scene, takes it from him and hands him another, this one loaded with a chocolate brown color. Now over here I'm kind of thinking something is weird here. Why isn't the artist picking up his own paintbrushes? So something's a little strange, but we don't know what yet. Again, the swallow swoops. The swallow here is our paintbrush, not a real bird. This time from the right side of the paper, down and to the left, then up again, forming a graceful curve. The visitors, so he has an audience, that's kind of interesting, make sounds of appreciation as an image of a tree begins to take shape. The best works of Picasso and Pollock hardly compare, they murmur. Can't you feel the tree branches bending in the breeze? And down here we have the information that Pablo Picasso and Jackson Pollock were two famous 20th century painters. So this artist, King, is being compared to two famous 20th century painters. So now we're thinking, How does analogy and allusion impact the meaning and tone of the story? So we have a little bit of figurative language here. We have the grass green paint, we have like a swallow, which happens multiple times, and then they're also making this comparison to Picasso and Pollock. So that's something that we want to keep in mind. So here, the first one creates an image of a brush moving like a bird. So we know that this one's going to be like a swallow. So we can use this first one here, brush swoops like a swallow. And then over here, how is this impacting the tone? If we're thinking about a bird like flying around in the grass and swooping up and down and making a graceful curve, that's something we could have annotated, a graceful curve. We're thinking that this is going to be maybe peaceful, going to be graceful, that's a word that they already used. Graceful only has one L, sorry. And then maybe it's kind of awe-inspiring, because the people are saying, they're murmuring, they're like, wow, that's really amazing. You know, and if we're thinking of like a really beautiful bird doing some pretty cool flying, maybe it's amazing. So down here, there's an allusion, right? So an analogy is a comparison, but down here we have an allusion, and the allusion was given to us. It's Pablo Picasso and Jackson Pollock. So it's saying already that the impact on the tone is that it's admiring and respectful. But the impact on the meaning, what is this helping us to understand? And again, it's helping us to understand that the artist is as amazing as famous painters. Okay. So this is what we have so far. So again, you know, my handwriting's trash. The brush swoops like a swallow, which is creating an image of the brush moving like a bird. It's giving us a peaceful, graceful, and awe-inspiring tone. That's our analogy. And our allusion is Pablo Picasso and Jackson Pollock. The artist is as amazing as famous painters, and this is setting an admiring and respectful tone. So now flipping the page, we're on 155. Read the question first. What is the purpose, so that's our thinking guide, our P equals, of the author's use of the analogy on the page? So again, we're looking for a comparison. King gestures and his assistant gives him a brush. Again, that assistant, weird. Gives him a brush dripping with grass green paint again. The swallow, remember that's our paintbrush, not a real bird, is now a tiger, which means it's still the paintbrush, as the brush fiercely swipes at the bottom of the paper in short, quick strokes. So the swallow was doing like a nice little graceful thing, right? And then here, this is like stabbing. The artist gestures for blue, and the tiger swipes once more. Again, still a paintbrush. King stands back and surveys his creation for a minute before giving the paintbrush to his assistant, indicating that the painting is finished. Truly amazing, the visitors exclaim, clapping enthusiastically. Again, who are these visitors? Who is this artist that can't grab his own paintbrushes? The assistant removes the paper from the easel and announces, "See me to purchase this amazing elephant painting." For King is one of the painting elephants of Thailand, astonishing his visitors every day at the conservation center where he lives. So this is actually our exposition. It happened at the very end of the story. So the artist in this entire story is an elephant. And that's why the assistant has to keep giving him the brushes, because he's an elephant and he can't do it himself. Okay. So here, what is the purpose of the author's use of the analogy on this page? It describes a change in the artist's blending of colors and shapes. It describes a change. Okay, so these are all the same. So we're really kind of looking in the second half here. Does it have to do with the artist's blending of colors and shapes, the artist's perspective as he paints, a lighter, more delicate brushstroke, or a stronger, more powerful painting style. So again, you have to skim through this section and look for what the analogy is. Where do we see that like or as that's making a comparison? I'm not giving you the answer, but on Google Classroom, there is a Google form to record all of your answers for all of lesson 16. If you're feeling good, you can complete the next couple pages on your own. I'm not going to be doing a full annotation of all of the pages, but I will be reading them aloud for students who either don't have the text or, just want me to be able to read it to them, especially because there is this poem. But generally speaking, you're welcome to just continue on your own and go to the Google form and record your answers. And again, all of this work is due on Tuesday.